The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the UES Defender, but Captain Jake Morrison knew better. Out there in the darkness, two massive alien empires were tearing each other apart. The Keith Empire and the Vorthan Collective had been fighting for 30 years now, and the war showed no signs of ending. Jake stood at the large window of his ship, watching the stars. His crew was busy at their stations, monitoring space around them for any signs of trouble. The Defender was Earth's best diplomatic ship, built for peace talks and rescue missions, not for fighting. "Captain, we're getting a distress signal," called out Lieutenant Ben Harris from his station. "It's coming from Sector 7, about 2 hours away." Jake turned around. "What kind of signal?" "Looks like a damaged ship, sir. The message is in Keth language. They're asking for help." Jake nodded. This was exactly the kind of work Earth did now. When the galaxy went to war, humanity had chosen to stay out of it. Instead, they helped anyone who needed it, no matter which side they fought for. "Set course for Sector 7, Jake ordered, "and send a message to Earth Command. Let them know we're responding to a distress call." The Defender changed direction and sped toward the signal. Jake had done this many times before. Earth ships were welcome in most parts of space because everyone knew they wouldn't take sides in the war. They just helped people. 2 hours later, they found the damaged ship floating in space. It was a Keth transport vessel, badly hurt from some kind of attack. Parts of it were torn open, and Jake could see emergency lights flashing inside. "Scan the ship," Jake told his crew. "How many people are on board?" "Reading about 60 life signs, Captain," said Dr. Lucy Adams, the ship's doctor. "Most of them seem to be hurt. There are also some different life signs. Maybe prisoners." Jake frowned. Prisoners could make this complicated. "Open a channel to the ship." A few seconds later, a Keth officer appeared on the screen. The alien looked like a large lizard walking on 2 legs with gray skin and yellow eyes. He was clearly in pain. "Human ship, thank you for answering our call," the Keth officer said in broken English. "I am Commander Vaklesh. Our ship was attacked by Vorthan fighters. We have many wounded." "This is Captain Morrison of the UES Defender," Jake replied. "We're here to help. Do you have wounded prisoners on board?" The Keth commander's eyes grew dark. "Yes, 5 Vorthan prisoners. They are hurt too." "We'll help everyone," Jake said firmly. "That's what we do." An hour later, Jake's medical team was working on both Keth and Vorthan wounded in the Defender's sickbay. Dr. Adams moved from bed to bed, treating everyone the same way. She didn't care if they were enemies. Hurt people needed help. Jake was talking with Commander Vaklesh when another ship appeared on their sensors. This one was much bigger and definitely Vorthan. "Human vessel," came a harsh voice over the radio. "This is Admiral Zexthor of the Vorthan fleet. You will surrender the Keth prisoners to us immediately." Jake looked at the screen. The Vorthan admiral was very different from the Keth. He looked more like a giant insect with blue skin and multiple arms. His voice was angry and demanding. "Admiral Zexthor, this is Captain Morrison. We're providing medical aid under Earth's neutrality laws. All wounded beings are under our protection." "Those Keth are war criminals," the admiral said, his voice getting louder. "They destroyed one of our colony ships. Hand them over now or we will take them by force." Jake felt his crew watching him. This was the kind of situation Earth diplomats trained for. He had to stay calm and find a solution that worked for everyone. "Admiral, I understand your anger," Jake said carefully. "But these prisoners are wounded and can't be moved right now. Let me suggest something different." He paused, thinking quickly. "We have medical records showing their injuries. Once they're stable, we can arrange a proper prisoner exchange through the normal diplomatic channels. This way, both sides follow the rules of war." Commander Vaklesh started to speak, but Jake held up his hand. "Commander, your people will also get their prisoners back through the same system. Earth has successfully handled over 300 prisoner exchanges in the past 5 years." Both alien officers looked unhappy, but they also looked thoughtful. Jake continued talking. "Admiral, I know you want justice for your colony ship, but taking wounded prisoners by force won't bring back the people you lost. It will just make the war worse." The Vorthan admiral was quiet for a long moment. His insect-like face was hard to read, but Jake could see he was thinking. "You humans always do this," the Admiral finally said. "You make everything complicated with your rules and your talk of fairness." "We try to do what's right," Jake replied. "And what's right is making sure wounded people get medical care before anything else." Commander Vaklesh spoke up. "The human is correct, Admiral. Even in war, there are rules. The wounded should be cared for first." Jake was surprised to hear the Keth officer support him, but he didn't show it. "Thank you, Commander. I promise both sides will be treated fairly." After another hour of talking, both ships agreed to Jake's plan. The wounded would be treated on the Defender until they were stable, then properly exchanged through Earth's diplomatic system. As the alien ships moved away, Dr. Adams came to the bridge. She looked tired but satisfied. "How are the patients?" "Doctor?" Jake asked. "They'll all live," she said. "It's strange, Captain, when they're hurt and scared they don't seem so different from us. The Keth and Vorthan patients were even helping each other in the sickbay." Jake nodded. He had seen this before. War made enemies out of people who might have been friends in different times. "That's why we do this job, Lucy," he said. "Someone has to remember that we're all just people trying to survive." Later that night, Jake sat in his quarters writing his report to Earth Command. Another crisis solved. Another small step toward peace. But he couldn't shake the feeling that things were getting worse out there. Both sides seemed more angry, more desperate than before. He finished his report and looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the war continued. Ships were fighting and people were dying while he sat safely on his peaceful vessel. But that was Earth's choice. They would stay neutral, keep helping people, and hope that someday the galaxy would find peace again. Jake just prayed that day would come soon. The stars looked peaceful from his window, but Jake Morrison knew that peace was getting harder to keep with each passing day. 6 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison's encounter with the wounded prisoners, and the war in space was getting worse. Every day brought new reports of destroyed planets and millions of dead civilians. Earth's refugee camps were overflowing, with people who had lost everything. Commander Lisa Park sat in her office at Earth Defense Intelligence, studying the latest reports from across the galaxy. The news was bad and getting worse. Both the Keth Empire and the Vorthon Collective were developing new weapons that could kill entire planets. Lisa was Earth's top intelligence officer, and her job was to keep track of what both sides were doing in the war. What she had discovered in the past month made her sick to her stomach. "The Keth have finished testing their bioweapon," she said to her assistant, Lieutenant Tony Blake. "It's designed to kill any living thing that breathes oxygen. They could wipe out a planet in days." Tony looked up from his computer screen. "What about the Vorthons?" "Worse," Lisa said grimly. "They've created some kind of virus that attacks the nervous system. It doesn't just kill, it makes people suffer for weeks before they die. Both weapons were against every law of war that civilized species had ever agreed to follow. But in a war that had already killed billions, neither side seemed to care about laws anymore." Lisa picked up her secure phone and called President Ryan Cole. The president was a calm man who had led Earth through 15 years of peace, but Lisa could hear the stress in his voice when he answered. "What do you have for me, Lisa?" the president asked. "Sir, both sides are almost ready to use planet-killer weapons. And we have another problem. Both the Keth and Vorthans are demanding that we choose a side in this war." President Cole was quiet for a moment. Lisa could imagine him sitting in his office in New York, looking out at the city where millions of humans lived in peace while the galaxy burned around them. "What exactly are they demanding?" he finally asked. "The Keth want our shield technology. They say their homeworld needs better protection from Vorthon attacks. The Vorthans want to use our space stations as bases for their military operations. And if we say no?" Lisa looked at her notes. "Both sides are threatening to stop all trade with Earth. No more alien technology, no more rare materials from their mining operations. They're also threatening to blockade our ships." This was Earth's worst fear. For 30 years, humanity had stayed neutral by being useful to both sides. They provided medical care, diplomatic services, and safe meeting places for prisoner exchanges. But now both empires were demanding that Earth pick a side. On Luna Base, Dr. Alex Rodriguez was dealing with his own crisis. The refugee camps were overcrowded and running out of supplies. Every day, more ships arrived carrying families who had lost their homes to the war. The latest group to arrive were the Zentai, a peaceful people who had never hurt anyone. Their entire planet had been destroyed when it got caught between two massive fleet battles. Now the few survivors sat in the camp's main hall quietly mourning their lost world. Dr. Rodriguez, called Nurse Emma Morrison Captain Jake's wife. She had volunteered to work at the refugee camp when the war started getting worse. We have another ship coming in. This one has 500 Melody refugees. Alex sighed. The Melody were artists and musicians from a world that had been beautiful beyond imagination. Now their planet was nothing but burning rocks floating in space. Where are we going to put them? Alex asked. We're already housing 50,000 refugees. The camp was only built for 10,000. Emma looked at her tablet. We'll have to put them in the emergency shelters. It's not comfortable, but it's safe. Alex walked to the window and looked out at Luna's surface. Everywhere he could see, there were temporary buildings housing people from dozens of different worlds. Some were strange-looking aliens, but others looked almost human. All of them had the same expression in their eyes, the look of people who had lost everything. Captain Jake Morrison was having his own problems out in space. His diplomatic missions were getting more dangerous every week. Both sides were becoming suspicious of Earth's neutrality, and their military patrols were getting hostile. Captain, we have 3 Keth warships approaching, called Lieutenant Harris from his sensor station. They're not responding to our diplomatic identification signals. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Keth ships were massive and heavily armed. His own ship had some defensive systems, but it was built for peace talks, not for fighting. Keep broadcasting our identification, Jake ordered. Make sure they know we're a diplomatic vessel. The Keth ships got closer and closer. Finally, their leader's harsh voice came over the radio. Human vessel, you are in a restricted military zone. Leave immediately or be destroyed. This is Captain Morrison of the UES Defender, Jake replied. We're on a humanitarian mission to evacuate wounded civilians from the Kepler system. There are no civilians in this area, the Keith commander said. Only military targets. You have 5 minutes to leave. Jake felt his crew watching him. They all knew that 5 minutes wasn't enough time to reach the safe distance the Keith were demanding. But if they didn't try, the Keth might attack. Set course for the system boundary, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. The Defender raced away from the Keth warships as fast as it could go. They barely made it to safety before the 5 minutes were up. But Jake knew they had been lucky this time. Similar incidents were happening all over the galaxy. Earth ships were being threatened, stopped and searched by both sides. The trust that had protected human vessels for 30 years was breaking down. Back on Earth, President Cole was meeting with the World Council in emergency session. Representatives from every major nation sat around the huge conference table, arguing about what Earth should do. We can't choose a side, said Ambassador Linda Carter, Earth's chief diplomat. If we do, half the galaxy will see us as enemies. Our refugee programs will end and millions of people will die. But if we don't choose a side, both empires might attack us, replied General Kate Sullivan, head of Earth's military forces. Our intelligence reports say they're discussing a joint operation to force us into the war. President Cole listened to the arguments for hours. Some people wanted to side with the Keth because they seemed less aggressive. Others preferred the Vortans because their technology was more advanced. A few suggested that Earth should prepare to fight both empires if necessary. Mr. President, said Dr. Foster from the Science Council, we have to remember why we stayed neutral in the first place. This war has already killed billions of innocent people. If we join it, we become part of the killing. General Sullivan shook her head. Nicole, I respect your position, but we might not have a choice anymore. Both sides are getting desperate, and desperate people do terrible things. The meeting went on late into the night. Outside the conference room, the lights of New York City sparkled peacefully, but everyone in the room knew that Earth's long peace might be coming to an end. The next morning, both alien empires delivered the same message to Earth. They had 30 days to choose a side in the war. If they didn't, both the Keth Empire and the Vorthon Collective would consider Earth an enemy. President Cole read both messages in his office, then looked out at the city again. Somewhere up in space, his wife Emma was helping refugees on Luna Base. Captain Morrison was out there trying to save more civilians. Dr. Rodriguez was caring for people who had lost everything. All of Earth's good work might be about to end. The galaxy was forcing humanity to choose between peace and survival, and Cole was beginning to fear they might not be able to have both. The attack came without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning. Dr. Alex Rodriguez was making his rounds at Luna Base when the first explosions shook the medical center. He was checking on a group of young Zentai children who had been orphaned when their world was destroyed. "Doctor, what was that?" asked Nurse Emma Morrison, looking up from the medicine she was preparing. Through the transparent walls of the medical bay, they could see flashes of light in space above them. Alex ran to the window and looked up. His blood turned cold. A massive fleet of ships was attacking Luna Base. Ships from both the Keth Empire and the Vorthon Collective, working together for the first time in 30 years. "This is impossible," Alex whispered. "They hate each other. Why are they attacking together?" Another explosion rocked the base, and the lights went out for a moment. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Alarms started screaming throughout the complex. "Everyone to the evacuation shelters," Alex shouted to his staff. "Move all patients who can be moved." Emma grabbed the nearest communication device. "Jake, can you hear me?" she called to her husband, who was somewhere out in space. But there was no answer. The enemy ships were jamming all communications. The attack was systematic and cruel. The alien fleets targeted the refugee housing areas first, where families slept in temporary shelters. Thousands of innocent people, Zentai, Melody, and dozens of other species who had come to Earth for safety, were killed in the first few minutes. Dr. Rodriguez ran through the corridors, helping his staff evacuate the medical wards. He carried a small Zentai child in his arms while guiding a wounded Melody artist who could barely walk. "Why are they doing this?" the Melody asked, her musical voice shaking with fear. "We never hurt anyone." Alex didn't have an answer. He had spent his whole career helping people, treating the wounded from both sides of the war without asking questions. Now, those same people were trying to kill him, and everyone he was trying to protect. The base's defensive shields were failing. Luna Base had some protection, but it was designed to stop asteroids and space debris, not a full military attack. The combined firepower of Keth and Vorthon warships was overwhelming. Emma Morrison was in the children's ward when the ceiling collapsed. She had been trying to get the young refugees to safety when a direct hit from a Keth plasma cannon brought down half the building. The last thing she saw was Alex Rodriguez throwing himself over a group of injured children, trying to protect them with his own body. Both Emma and Alex died in that moment, crushed by debris as they tried to save others. Lieutenant Ben Harris was at the Titan monitoring station when his sensors picked up another enemy fleet approaching. His small team of 12 people operated a deep space listening post that helped coordinate refugee rescue missions. "Sir, we're seeing massive enemy formations heading for the Mars refugee facilities," Harris reported to his commanding officer. "I'm counting over 100 ships." "Send a warning to Mars base," his commander ordered, "and prepare to evacuate our station." But it was too late. The enemy fleet had already surrounded Titan Station. A Vorthon admiral's face appeared on their communication screen, his insect-like features twisted with anger. "Human monitoring station, you will surrender immediately," the alien said. "Your spying operations end today." "We're not spying," Harris replied, trying to stay calm. "We're a humanitarian station. We only monitor refugee movements to help coordinate rescue operations." "Lies," the Vorthon admiral spat. "You have been collecting military intelligence and passing it to our enemies." Harris looked around at his team. They were scientists and communication specialists, not soldiers. Their equipment was designed to track refugee ships and coordinate medical supplies, not to spy on military operations. "Sir, we can show you our records," Harris offered. "Everything we do is humanitarian work." The Vorthan admiral didn't respond. Instead, his ships opened fire on the tiny station. Harris and his entire team were vaporized instantly, their final transmission cut off in mid-sentence. The attacks continued for 6 hours. Mars refugee facilities were bombed. Earth's medical stations orbiting Jupiter were destroyed. Supply ships carrying food and medicine to refugee camps were hunted down and destroyed. Captain Jake Morrison was racing back to Earth's solar system when he received the terrible news. His ship was loaded with refugees from a destroyed Melody colony when the first reports reached him. "Captain," Lieutenant Tony Blake said quietly, "I'm getting reports of attacks on Luna Base and Mars facilities. The communications are breaking up, but it looks bad." Jake stood on his bridge watching the stars stream by as his ship traveled at maximum speed toward home. His heart was pounding, and his hands were shaking. Emma was at Luna Base. Dr. Rodriguez was there too, along with 50,000 refugees. "How long until we reach Earth?" Jake asked. 8 hours at current speed, sir," his navigator replied. "Push the engines harder. I don't care if we burn them out." As they got closer to home, the reports got worse. Luna Base was heavily damaged. Mars facilities were destroyed. The Titan station was gone. Thousands of Earth personnel were dead, along with tens of thousands of refugees. When Jake finally reached Luna Base, what he found broke his heart. The beautiful medical complex where his wife had worked was now a field of twisted metal and burning debris. Search teams were digging through the rubble looking for survivors. Dr. Foster from the Science Council met Jake at the landing pad. Her face was streaked with tears and ash. "Jake, I'm so sorry," she said softly. "Emma didn't make it. Neither did Alex. They died trying to save the children in the medical ward." Jake felt something break inside his chest. Emma had been the kindest person he knew. She had volunteered to help refugees because she couldn't stand to see people suffering. Now she was dead, killed by the same people she had tried to help. President Cole stood before the cameras in his emergency bunker, addressing not just Earth but the entire galaxy. His face was grim, and his voice was steady despite the tragedy that had just struck humanity. "For 30 years, Earth chose peace," the president said. "We stayed out of the Galactic War. We helped the wounded from both sides. We provided sanctuary for refugees who had lost their homes." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "Today, the Keth Empire and Vorthan Collective chose to attack our humanitarian facilities. They killed our doctors, our nurses, and our aid workers. They murdered refugee families who came to us for safety." Behind the president, Admiral Linda Carter stood with her jaw set in anger. The diplomat who had spent decades negotiating peace was now ready for war. "Both alien empires claim we were spying on them," President Cole continued. "They say our neutrality was fake, that we were secretly helping their enemies. This is a lie, and they know it." Jake Morrison watched the president's speech from the ruins of Luna Base. Around him, rescue teams were still pulling bodies from the wreckage. Most of them were refugees, innocent families who had trusted Earth to keep them safe. "Earth's neutrality is now ended," President Cole announced. "We will defend ourselves and our allies. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves, and we will make sure that justice is served for the innocent lives lost today." Jake looked up at the stars where the enemy fleets had disappeared after their attack. Somewhere out there, the people who had killed his wife were celebrating their victory. They thought they had scared Earth into submission. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The age of Earth's peaceful neutrality was over. The age of human war was about to begin. The transformation of Earth began immediately after President Cole's war declaration. Within hours, every major factory on the planet stopped making civilian goods and started producing military equipment. Humanity had been preparing for this day for decades, even while publicly maintaining their peaceful stance. General Kate Sullivan stood in the command center of Earth's new military headquarters, watching screens that showed the planet's incredible industrial capacity switching to war production. She had been Earth's humanitarian operations director for 15 years, but she had also been secretly planning for the day when peace would no longer be possible. "General, the first wave of new ships will be ready in 72 hours, reported Colonel Susan Wells, her chief of staff. The shipyards have been working around the clock since the attacks. Kate nodded grimly. What about personnel? We have over 2 million volunteers already signed up for military service. Most of them are people who worked with refugees or lost family members in the attacks. Jake Morrison was one of those volunteers. 3 days after Emma's funeral, he stood in the massive shipyard orbiting Earth, looking at his new command. The UES Vengeance was the largest warship humanity had ever built, and it had been constructed in secret over the past 10 years. She's beautiful, isn't she? Said Dr. Nicole Foster, walking up beside him. The scientist had been working on new weapons systems since the attack, and her eyes had the hard look of someone who had seen too much death. How many ships like this do we have? Jake asked. 12 dreadnoughts, 48 heavy cruisers, and over 200 smaller vessels, Nicole replied. Plus, the ships our new allies are contributing. Jake was surprised. New allies? Nicole smiled for the first time since the attacks. The refugee species we've been helping for 30 years. They're volunteering to fight alongside us. The Zentai may be peaceful, but they're also brilliant tacticians. The Melody have technology we never imagined. Captain Tony Blake joined them, wearing the uniform of Earth's new military fleet. He had been promoted to command one of the heavy cruisers after volunteering immediately following the Luna base attack. Admiral Morrison, Tony said, giving Jake his new title. The fleet is ready for its first mission. We have intelligence on the location of the Keth Vorthen task force that attacked our facilities. Jake's eyes hardened. How good is the intelligence? Very good. The survivors from the refugee ships have been providing detailed information about enemy movements. They want revenge as much as we do. The first battle came in the Kepler system, where a joint Keth Vorthen fleet was preparing to attack a neutral trading station. The aliens had grown bold after their success against Earth's humanitarian facilities, and they were now targeting anyone who had ever helped refugees. Admiral Jake Morrison led the human fleet into battle with cold determination. The UES Vengeance and her sister ships dropped out of hyperspace directly between the enemy fleet and the trading station. This is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. Jake broadcast on all frequencies. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. The Keth fleet commander's reply was filled with arrogance. Human, you are outnumbered 3 to 1. Surrender now and we will give you a quick death. Counteroffer, Jake replied. Surrender now and we'll let you live long enough to stand. Trial for war crimes. The battle that followed shocked both alien empires. Earth's ships moved with a precision and coordination that neither the Keth nor Vorthans had ever seen. The humans had studied both alien military doctrines for 30 years, learning their strengths and weaknesses while pretending to be simple peacekeepers. Captain Blake's cruiser, the UES Justice, led a squadron of smaller ships in a complex maneuver that confused the enemy formation. While the aliens tried to figure out what the humans were doing, Admiral Morrison's dreadnoughts struck from an unexpected angle. Target their command ships first, Jake ordered. These are the people who ordered the attacks on our civilians. The human weapons were unlike anything the aliens had seen before. Dr. Foster's research teams had spent years developing adaptive systems that could adjust their effects based on enemy ship designs. Keth energy shields, which had protected them for centuries, suddenly became useless. Vorthen armor plating, stronger than any known metal, cracked like glass under the new human weapons. But the most shocking part of the battle was Earth's new allies. Zentai pilots, flying human-built fighters, showed tactical abilities that amazed even Jake. Their peaceful nature hadn't made them weak. It had made them incredibly precise and efficient. The Melody contribution was different, but equally effective. Their ships broadcast complex harmonic frequencies that disrupted enemy communications and targeting systems. Alien ships found themselves firing at empty space, while human vessels struck from positions they couldn't detect. The battle lasted only 3 hours. When it was over, the joint Keth Vorthen task force had been completely destroyed. Not a single human ship was lost, and the neutral trading station was safe. News of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy in hours. The species that had been neutral in the war suddenly found hope. If the peaceful humans could defeat the mighty alien empires, maybe the war could actually be ended. More species began joining what became known as the Free Species Alliance. The peaceful Altarians offered their advanced medical technology. The trading-focused Centauri provided supply ships and logistic support. Even some military species tired of the endless war switched sides to join humanity. Commander Lucy Adams, now leading Earth's fast attack squadrons, coordinated with pilots from a dozen different species. Her tactics, learned during years of dangerous refugee rescue missions, proved perfect for hit-and-run attacks against enemy supply lines. The key is to never fight where the enemy expects you to fight, Lucy explained to her mixed squadron of human and alien pilots. We spent 30 years rescuing people from impossible situations. Now we use those same skills to hurt the people who started this war. General Sullivan established her headquarters on a captured Keth battle station, which became the center of Free Species Alliance operations. Representatives from 40 different worlds met there to plan their campaigns against the two galactic empires. We're not trying to conquer anyone, Kate explained to the alien representatives. We just want the war to end and the killing to stop. Any species that wants peace is welcome to join us. The Zentai representative, a tall, graceful being with silver skin, spoke carefully. General Sullivan, our people have learned much about war by watching it for 30 years. We believe the key to victory is not just defeating the enemy's military forces, but also showing their civilian populations that peace is possible. Kate nodded. This was exactly why Earth's alliance was growing so quickly. They weren't just offering military protection, they were offering hope for a better future. Dr. Foster's research teams worked around the clock to develop new technologies. But unlike the planet-killing weapons the empires were creating, Earth scientists focused on tools that could end the war quickly, without massive civilian casualties. We've developed a new kind of computer virus, Nicole reported to Admiral Morrison during their weekly strategy meeting. It can disable enemy weapon systems without hurting the life support systems that keep their crews alive. Jake was impressed. Even in war, humanity was trying to minimize death and suffering. This was what separated Earth from the alien empires. They had never forgotten their humanitarian values. But the alien empires were not giving up. Intelligence reports showed that both the Keth and Vorthans were preparing massive counterattacks against Earth and its allies. They had been shocked by humanity's military capabilities, but they were also angry and desperate. "Sir," reported Captain Wells during a fleet briefing, "our spies indicate that both empires are planning to use their planet-killer weapons against Earth itself. They want to end this war by destroying our homeworld." Jake looked around the briefing room at his officers. Many of them had lost family and friends in the attacks on the refugee facilities. All of them were determined to protect Earth and end the war. "Then we'll have to stop them before they get the chance," Jake said simply. "Prepare the fleet for a major offensive operation." The final battle was coming, and everyone knew it. The alien empires had started this war by making it personal when they attacked Earth's humanitarian workers. Now humanity was going to finish it. The final battle began at the ruins of Luna Base, where Earth's humanitarian dream had died under alien bombs. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, looking out at the largest fleet ever assembled in human history. 200 Earthships formed the core of the massive formation, but they were joined by vessels from over 60 different species. Zentai meditation ships sailed alongside Melody Harmony cruisers. Former Keth rebels fought beside escaped Vorthan slaves. The Free Species Alliance had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a truly united force fighting for peace. "Admiral, enemy fleets are approaching from both sides," reported Captain Susan Wells from her position at the tactical station. "The combined Keth-Vorthan armada is massive, over 800 ships." Jake nodded calmly. He had expected this. Both alien empires had gathered their remaining forces for one final battle to crush the human rebellion. They still believed that superior numbers would win the war. "Signal all ships," Jake ordered. "Remember what we're fighting for. Every person who died at Luna Base, every refugee family that was murdered, every humanitarian worker who gave their life to help others." The enemy fleet was led by Keth Fleet Commander Vectar and Vorthon Supreme Admiral Quindex, the same officers who had personally ordered the attacks on Earth's refugee facilities. Both aliens had sworn to destroy humanity. Completely. Humans, came Vectar's harsh voice over the communication channels. Your pathetic rebellion ends today. We will burn your homeworld and scatter your ashes across space. Admiral Quindex added his own threat. You should have stayed neutral, Earth creatures. Now you will pay for your interference with extinction. Jake activated his own communication system, broadcasting to both fleets and every monitoring station in the galaxy. Commander Vectar, Admiral Quindex, you are war criminals responsible for the murder of innocent civilians. Surrender now and face trial or be destroyed, the alien. Commanders laughed. They still believed they were facing the same peaceful humans who had been easy targets just months before. The battle began with the largest space engagement in galactic history. 800 alien warships attacked 200 human vessels and their alien allies. But Jake Morrison had learned something important during his years of rescuing refugees. Sometimes the smaller force could win if they were fighting for the right reasons. Commander Lucy Adams led the first attack wave, commanding a mixed squadron of human fighters and Zentai tactical ships. Her pilots had trained for this moment, practicing the same precision and coordination they had used in refugee rescue operations. Remember, we're not here to destroy everything, Lucy told her pilots over the radio. We're here to end the war. Target weapons and engines, not life support systems. The Zentai pilots, despite their peaceful nature, flew with deadly precision. Their ships moved in patterns that confused the enemy targeting computers. Years of meditation had given them perfect timing and spatial awareness. The Melody ships provided support with their harmonic frequency weapons, disrupting enemy communications across the entire battlefield. Keth and Vorthon's ships found themselves unable to coordinate their attacks, firing wildly at targets they couldn't properly identify. Captain Tony Blake commanded the heavy cruiser UES Justice, leading a direct assault on the enemy command ships. His target was Commander Vectar's massive battleship, the vessel that had led the attack on Luna Base. This is for Dr. Rodriguez and all the people you murdered, Tony said, as his ship's weapons locked onto the Keth commander's vessel. The Justice's adaptive weapons designed by Dr. Foster's research teams cut through the Keth ship's defenses like they were made of paper. Tony's precise shots disabled the enemy vessel's weapons and engines without destroying the crew quarters. Admiral Morrison's dreadnought engaged Admiral Quindex's command ship in a direct battle above Luna's scarred surface. Both vessels were massive, but the Vengeance had been built with 30 years of knowledge about Vorthon technology. Admiral Quindex, Jake broadcasted to his enemy, look around you. Your ships are being disabled, not destroyed. Your crews are being captured, not killed. This is how civilized beings conduct war. The Vorthon admiral's reply was filled with rage and confusion. Impossible. We are superior. We have the stronger weapons. You have stronger weapons for killing, Jake replied as his ship's precise shots knocked out the Vorthon vessel's main guns. We have better weapons for winning. The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Free Species Alliance ships moved with perfect coordination, each species contributing their unique abilities to the common cause. Human tactical planning, Zentai precision, Melody disruption technology, and the determination of dozens of refugee species combined into an unstoppable force. One by one, the alien empire ships were disabled and their crews captured. The human fleet made sure that enemy life support systems remained functional, following Earth's humanitarian principles even in the heat of battle. The turning point came when Captain Blake's ship was severely damaged while protecting a group of smaller Free Species Alliance vessels. Tony Blake knew his ship was about to explode, but he also saw that a group of refugee transport ships was directly in the path of enemy fire. All crew to escape pods, Tony ordered his people. I'm staying behind to guide the ship. Captain Blake manually flew his dying cruiser directly into the path of incoming Keth missiles, using his ship's bulk to shield the refugee vessels. The Justice exploded in a brilliant flash, but the civilian ships were saved. Jake Morrison felt the loss of his friend like a physical blow, but he also felt pride. Tony had died the same way Emma and Dr. Rodriguez had died, protecting innocent people. All ships, Jake broadcasted to his fleet. Captain Blake has shown us what we're fighting for. Not revenge, not conquest, but protection. We fight so that no more refugee children have to die. The final phase of the battle came when both alien fleet commanders realized they were defeated. Their ships were disabled or destroyed, their crews were surrendering, and their dreams of human extinction were over. Commander Vector and Admiral Quindex tried one last desperate move. Both enemy leaders attempted to activate the planet-killer weapons they had brought to destroy Earth. But Dr. Foster's computer viruses had already infected their ship's systems during the battle. Instead of launching planet-destroying weapons, both command ships simply shut down completely. Their life support continued working, but everything else, weapons, engines, communications, went offline. Attention alien fleet commanders, Jake broadcasted as human boarding teams secured the disabled enemy ships. You are under arrest for war crimes against civilian populations. You will be tried according to the laws of war that all civilized species recognize. The great battle was over. Of the 800 ships in the alien armada, over 600 had been captured intact with their crews alive. The rest had been destroyed only when their crews chose to fight to the death rather than surrender. The Free Species Alliance had lost 37 ships, including Tony Blake's Justice. But they had won something more important than a military victory. They had shown the galaxy that war could be fought without becoming monsters. In the weeks that followed, both the Keth Empire and Vorthan Collective surrendered completely. Their remaining fleet commanders, seeing what had happened to their most powerful forces, chose peace over destruction. The Galactic Peace Accord was signed on Luna Base, in the same location where Dr. Rodriguez and Emma Morrison had died protecting refugee children. President Cole, now representing a humanity that was no longer neutral but had become the galaxy's peacekeeper, addressed the assembled representatives of over 100 species. Today we end not just this war, but the idea that war is inevitable, Cole said. From now on, any species that threatens innocent civilians will face the Free Species Alliance. Admiral Jake Morrison, now bearing the title Protector of Free Species, stood at the rebuilt Luna Base Memorial. The names of Emma Morrison, Dr. Alex Rodriguez, Lieutenant Ben Harris, Captain Tony Blake, and thousands of other humanitarian workers were carved into the memorial wall. They chose compassion in a galaxy of conflict, Jake read from the memorial inscription. Their memory guides us to ensure peace through strength. A year later, Jake watched the first graduation ceremony at Earth's new Galactic Defense Academy. Human and alien officers stood together, learning not just how to fight, but how to keep the peace that so many people had died to create. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Earth had stayed out of the Galactic War until the enemy made it personal, but when humanity finally chose to fight, they had fought not for conquest or revenge, but for the simple idea that innocent people deserved protection. The war was over, but the peace would need constant protection, and humanity, with their alien allies at their side, was ready to provide that protection for as long as the galaxy needed it. Jake looked up at the stars, where Free Species Alliance ships patrolled the space lanes, keeping them safe for traders, refugees, and anyone else who needed help. Earth's age of neutrality was over, but their age as protectors of the innocent had just begun. The galaxy was finally at peace, and this time, humanity would make sure it stayed that way.